Can anyone guess what enemy of joy we are going to be tackling this week? It's week 3 of our series, and so far we have talked about comparison and loneliness and how they are enemies of joy. This week, we're going to be talking about fear. We all have fears. Some are simple and avoidable, like spiders or roller coasters. That's mine. I'm terrified of roller coasters. I don't like the thrill of it. But there are also other fears in our life that we're going to have to face that don't have as simple of an answer as calling to get someone else to come in the room and kill the spider for us. Fear is one of the 7 universal emotions experienced by everyone around the world. Others include sadness, anger, surprise. Fear is something that makes us human. It's something we can all relate to and empathize with. We have and we will all face fear in our lives. The thing that makes fear an enemy of joy is not that we have it or have to face it, it's how we conquer it. Fear becomes an enemy of joy when we let it control us, when we freeze in fear or let the fear of a situation or decision stop us from moving forward with our life or taking a next step. That is when it becomes the enemy. But when we face our fears, when we conquer fear, we win joy through that courage. Some of the top fears people face in their life, and particularly teenagers, are fears like peer pressure or not fitting in, the fear of failure, fear of the future. There are many more too, of course, and though we all face fear, it's what we personally fear that makes us all inherently different as people. For me, my biggest fear is the fear of the unknown. I'm a planner. I like to know what's coming, I like to be prepared, and I really like to be in control. So during times in my life when I'm not sure what exactly to expect, I am in a place of fear. When I was going into 6th grade, I was moving to a new middle school. My elementary school was small. I moved between 3 classrooms that were all in the same hallway. It was easy to manage. But moving into middle school, this place had 3 floors and my classes could be anywhere, in any hallway. I was petrified. The entire summer leading up to 6th grade, my sister would sit on the floor with me with the map from the back of her agenda, because she was already in that middle school, and walk me through my route to my classes over and over again. The night of open house, I made my mom walk my class route with me probably 25 times before she finally got me to leave. It was all so new, and I didn't know what to expect. But here's the thing I think we all forget sometimes when we're feeling that fear. It's okay to be afraid. Heck, sometimes fear can save your life, triggering a message to your brain that you aren't safe. I live in downtown Baltimore, and some of you may not know this. I just recently learned that in the area where I live, there are sometimes coyotes out really late at night. If I'm walking home and come face to face with a coyote, I am going to be afraid. And I have every right to be. Being afraid is part of being human. When we face fear, when we conquer fear, that is when we grow.
Fear. Well, I'm sure we can all name a few things that we're fearful of. Fear is something that every single person goes through, and it's super important to know how to deal with our fears. I know facing fears sounds kind of scary, but you should always remember that God is with you to help. Now with that, facing fears comes putting a ton of trust in God. Fear can affect people in many different ways. Some side effects of fear can be wanting to hide and isolate yourself. Sometimes when I'm scared, I try to avoid it and don't ask questions when I know something's wrong. One super important way of dealing with your fear is asking God for guidance. Other ways can be asking questions or talking to your friends and family. Something in my life that is causing me a lot of fear is my dad's health. About a year ago, my dad was diagnosed with a brain tumor, or better known as brain cancer. Soon after, he became epileptic. Epilepsy is when a person has several seizures. Now that some time has passed, I fear some simple things in life, like just wanting to fall asleep. I'm scared of falling asleep because I'm scared I'm gonna wake up to my dad having another seizure. I also fear that his memory will fade and he won't remember me or my family and the things we did together. And of course, I fear him not being in my life anymore. I know that's a lot to fear, and everyone faces different types of fear. But it's important to not let it overwhelm you. We have God with us to help face these fears. In Psalms chapter 27, verse 13 through 14 says, "When we are in fear, it seems like it'll never go away. Everything known in this world is temporal, only existing for time. But our God exists outside of time. His storehouse of goodness and beauty is inexhaustible. So we can be certain that we'll continue to see the goodness of the Lord in this life, and that we should have the courage to face a fear. Personally, for me, to deal with my fears, I ask my mom questions about my dad, and I just talk to her. I also try to model to my brothers what it looks like to be courageous in challenges that bring me fear. Everyone should try finding healthy ways to deal with fears, and remember that you always have God to help you with them.
In Luke chapter 22, we hear Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. In his final moments before being handed over to the chief priests to be humiliated, beaten, and ultimately crucified, he prays, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." As I've already said, fear is a part of being human. Jesus, as fully God and fully human, is found here fearful. He knows what is about to happen, and he also knows it's part of God's plan. But still, afraid, he makes one final plea to God. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Father, if it is at all possible, don't make me do this. I don't know what to expect, but I know it is going to be painful. I know it's going to be public and embarrassing. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my mother and friends behind." But Jesus continues. After his plea, he says, "Yet not my will, but yours be done." He knows God has a plan, and he trusts him wholeheartedly. So if this is the plan, he will do it. God's will, not my own human will. "Thy will be done" is one of the most powerful, courageous prayers we can say as Christians. It gives up our human desire to be in control. That takes courage to let go and fully trust God and his plan and power. Because Jesus faced his fears and made the ultimate sacrifice for us, we get to have eternal life. Jesus faced his fear to give us joy. That is why fear won't be our enemy. It will be our greatest catalyst to more courage, more growth, experience, maturity, and more joy. When we face that fear with Jesus by our side, when we acknowledge our fear just as Jesus did, but move forward, we find courage and we find joy. Whether or not we know for sure what is coming next, we say, "Not my will, but thy will be done, God."